Boom! Welcome into Sports Bet. Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, Wednesday, August 9th. Big game breakdown. Red Sox and Rays. They continue their big series. And more NFL. The Broncos and the Bears. Quarterback battle between Simeon and Lynch. And some great comments from Joseph, the new head coach. We'll get to that coming up. Deep Dive Part 1. Clay Travis. That great interview we did with Johnny Manziel. And Teddy will talk to him coming up and the play of the day before we get out of here. Well, this was a tough one, Teddy. Bad beat. If you had the Rockies plus $2 and Rockies on the run line, Holland blows it again in the ninth. 1-0 in the bottom of the ninth. They were huge dogs. Kluber was bet up to 260 in some spots. The Indians tie it. Then they get a 3-run walk-off. The Indians cover the run line. 4-1. Holland blows back-to-back saves, Teddy.
Exactly. Holland had been 34 out of 35 in save chances. Back-to-back L's. All of a sudden, the pressure ratcheting up a little bit for Colorado, but they had a chance to cash a ticket, as you mentioned, $2 dog, $2.20 dogs at the close. That's a tough beat. Yan Gomes with the 3-run home run with 2 outs in the ninth inning, and Cleveland gets the money. Cleveland on the run line gets the money. That's tough if you had Colorado, for sure.
How about Kluber? Third pitcher in MLB history with at least 8 strikeouts in 12 consecutive starts. He has been dynamite since coming off the DL. Explain this. Here's a bad bet. Tehran at home took money, 25-cent move, closed 175. Braves lose. He's 1-8 with an ERA of 7 at home.
Baffling to me. I could not fathom the money that was coming in on Atlanta last night, and yet kept on trickling in. Minus 175 at the close for a guy, as you mentioned, 1-8, 707 at home in that new stadium. He's on the verge of having one of the worst home seasons in MLB history. I have no idea what the attraction for bettors was in that one. Philly gets the money. Atlanta, a bad bet.
All right, bad for the books. One good thing for the books. Finally, the Dodgers lost and the White Sox won on the same day. So that's rare, and that wipes out all the parlays. That's what people start with, is the White Sox are putting on a AAA team, and the Dodgers seem to win every night. But bad for the books. 20-cent move on the Blue Jays, closed $1.40. Donaldson goes deep twice. That was the difference.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that Tuesday was the daily double for the books. First time they hit it in a long time, with the Dodgers losing and the White Sox winning. As you mentioned, parlay action, very good for the house last night. When you talk about Toronto, I mean, there were a number of results that were bad for the books yesterday, but the fact that bettors were coming in against CC Sabathia, no surprise. What's he, 0-2 with an 8.10 ERA in his last 3? He's given up 5 home runs his last 13 innings. You know, Sabathia out of steam right here in August. He hasn't finished the 6th inning 5 times in his last 7 starts. Toronto took the money. Toronto got the money. Bad result for the house.
All right, so was this one. Red Sox and Sale on the road, opened 190, closed 215, and the total was bet from 7.5 down to 7. The Rays only had 2 hits. Sale continues to own the Rays. Another double-digit strikeout performance. Huge win for Boston, 4-game lead in the division. We'll talk about the offense in a second, though, but Sale shut them down again. He was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the Rays bats are ice cold, which we will mention in big game breakdown later in the show. But when you put a cold offense up against Chris Sale, I mean, and Craig Kimbrell behind him, 16 of the 31 batters the Red Sox pitchers faced struck out in that ballgame. Tampa for the game, 2 singles and a walk. Under cashes with ease. Boston gets the money. Both bad results for the books.
One more, 35-cent move on the Twins. This team stinks. They lost 100 games last year, so it's a good story. They are still under 500, but they're only a game and a half out of the second wild card in the American League, which 4 of the top 5 teams in the wild card race in the AL lost last night. 35-cent move on the Twins. Brewers lose again. They had a 5.5 game lead at the break. That's long gone.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Dozier coming to life after a very disappointing start. He had a grand slam in the 4th last night, broke the game open. 5 home runs now over the last 8 games. Minnesota's cashing some over tickets, and they certainly took a whole bunch of money in the game against Milwaukee. But as you mentioned, this is a Brewer squad. They had a 5.5 game lead in the NL Central. You know, now they're only 2 games out of 4th place in the NL Central. Milwaukee, they overachieved early, and they're, how do we put it politely, cracking under the pressure. They have not played good baseball since the All-Star.
All right, a couple of good props to talk about. Dave Mason, Bet Online, replying to Sports Insights on Twitter. How about this prop? Well, the Dodgers set the record for most wins in a season with 117. Yes, plus 550. They're on pace for 115.
Yeah, of course. But let's not forget, when you talk about September baseball, what's the Dodgers' focus going to be in September? Get everything ready for the postseason. It's not going to be balls to the wall down the stretch. That's why this price is where it is. And of course, you're talking about setting an all-time MLB record. The no deserves to be in the minus $9 range. And of course, Dave Mason to be, well, they know where the action's going to come on this. They know that your casual bettor is likely to bet the yes on this prop. They've offered an attractive price for those who think the Dodgers will end up breaking this MLB record. I'm not one of those people.
And Chris Andrews and company at the South Point here in Vegas put this up. Will the Astros or Dodgers win the World Series? Yes, plus 155. No, minus 175.
And this shows more than anything else, this particular prop, really. These are the two best teams in baseball this year, and the yes on either of the two to win the World Series is plus 155. This is not the NBA. Think about the NBA where, the best teams in the regular season are winning every title. Think about what the Cavs Warriors were versus the field during the NBA season after the All-Star break. Very different number for Astros or Dodgers, although interesting prop to consider. We like it when books put out creative numbers.
I want no part of the Astros, Teddy. There are a lot of guys
Not
openly
right
complaining that they didn't make any moves at the break. Keuchel got lit up. They are built for the regular season, not the postseason.
Well,
I don't want any part of Houston. No way. I'm with you on that. Up next, big game breakdown. Red Sox and the Rays and the Broncos and the Bears on NFL Network coming up on SportsBet. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBet, Betting Insight today. Time for Big Game Breakdown. Always sponsored and powered by Bet Online. Known for exceptional customer service, strong promotions, every possible type of wager that we're looking for out there. Check out the bonus page, sportsbookreview.com, for the latest and best offers. So open a new account today. Do it. Get up there. Bet Online. Red Sox and the Rays continue their series in Tampa. Porcello against Odorizzi. At Bet Online, the Red Sox are $1.20 on the road. 8.5 the total over minus 130. We like that because most shops are at 9. So nice you get 8.5 there. How about Porcello? Oh man, he goes from 22-4 with an ERA of 3.15 and winning the Cy Young to 5-14 with a 4.70 ERA. Teddy, look at the BABIP though, as we've talked about here on SportsBet.
Yeah, I mean, when you're Porcello and go from that type of a season, elite Cy Young campaign to a 5-14, you gotta keep your hat on straight, man. You gotta keep your head on straight for Porcello, and some of it's bad luck. As you mentioned, the BABIP, batting average on balls in play last year, 269. This year, 333. So opponents have hit the ball where he's not. But he's also changed his style a little bit. Porcello, his highest ever strikeout per 9 rate. The K9 rate's at 8.2. That's the highest of his career. He has the highest swinging strike percentage, 9.2 in his career. But the one thing that's been a problem and continues to be a problem for Porcello, the ground ball rate keeps dropping. Look at the numbers right here. Very clear. This is a guy who was a ground ball pitcher, 2013, 2014, right, 50% or higher. Now it's under 40%. And he's been under 50% ground balls in 13 of his last 14 starts. Obviously, the markets and the metrics prefer pitchers who keep the ball on the ground. Although, if you're going to be a fly ball pitcher, Tampa's not the worst place to be one. That may bode well for Porcello's chances this evening.
Well, how about the Red Sox? I mean, they've turned this around at least. Guys that are saving their offense, acquiring Nunez and also calling Devers up from AAA. ESPN Stats and Info tweet, Nunez, since joining the Red Sox July 28th, 19 hits, leads all of baseball, 10 extra base hits, also leads baseball. Now, to the Rays, they went 3-1 in their big road series at Houston, but the bats went dead when they came back home, shut out in 3 of the 4 games, tied 1-1 in the bottom of the 9th of the other one, so the bats are ice cold. They're hoping Odorizzi can bounce back, build off rather, last year, 10-6 with a 3.69. But even though he's 6-4 this year, you see the numbers. 10-6, not bad. But let's look at the numbers and throw this graphic up. 3.69 last year with a FIP of 4.31. That's fielding independent pitching. This year, a 4.47 with a 5.74 FIP. The strikeouts per nine are down, the walks per nine are up, and the ground ball rate is down. Not good, Teddy.
Yeah, though this may be the type of start where if you want to get ahead of Odorizzi, a guy who's left. Look, he's not an ace, but he's certainly capable of being an innings eater, and he was last year. This is going to be his first start in 3 weeks after being on the DL with a strained left hamstring. It was the second time on the DL this season. So if there's one start, maybe we get something out of Odorizzi where his form should be good. This could be that start, and he's not going to be on any kind of a pitch count this evening either. Of course, the Tampa bullpen behind him has been rock solid.
Get back to this game coming up. Game number 2, live odds, and sponsored by Bet Online. Thursday night, NFL Network. Broncos-Bears. Denver is 135.5 the total in Chicago. Simeon starts this week. Lynch starts week 2 of the preseason. So we have a legitimate quarterback battle here. Why? Look at the head coach, Vance Joseph. Quote, "It's an open competition. The games matter. The games start Thursday. I want to start the game so I can get to the bottom of this. It's going to be more than most starting quarterbacks would play the first couple of weeks." End quote. And he hasn't been impressed or liked either guy so far in camp, Teddy.
Well, can you blame him? I mean, I'm not convinced that Trevor Simeon's ready to be a starting quarterback at a high level in the NFL. And certainly Paxton Lynch showed no signs of being an effective starting quarterback in the NFL in limited action last year. So it's not a shock to see them come into camp and have their share of struggles moving the offense, especially because they're facing that Denver defense in practice every day. But the key here, this is a genuine battle for the starting job. There aren't many of these in the NFL. And when it is a genuine QB battle, it means that some starters, oftentimes most of the starters, are going to stay on the field longer because they're staying on the field for the number 2 guy. Otherwise, that almost never happens. Here's Vance Joseph on the offensive starters. Quote, "It's going to be a mix of both starters and reserves. Obviously, when the first guy leaves, we're going to keep some ones in just to keep the offense intact so the guy can play his best." So basically, Vance Joseph is saying, A, the starters are going to be on the field longer, and B, the quarterback competition really matters. So no surprise that we've seen the initial market move go towards Denver. If you like the Broncos, I'm telling you now, this line is only going up. Bet Denver sooner rather than later. If you want Chicago, hold off. Who knows how this high goes before kickoff.
So Glennon not having a good camp. Trubisky isn't having a good camp. They're spending all that money at the quarterback position. Glennon only 5-13 as a starter. Last start in 2014. Glennon on his accuracy issues. Quote, "We need to hit a couple of them. Just work with these guys. We've been doing it. Sometimes it's extra conditioning, working after practice. Keep working with those things. We missed a couple Friday. Those things come with time." Bears 0-3 straight up in ATS the first 3 weeks of the preseason. Last year, it's going to be DeSanchino. We like the Sanchez, a respectable number 2. He'll maybe get a lot of playing time in this one. He's good enough for the preseason. Don't laugh. Remember, Blaine Gabbert was terrific in the Hall of Fame game. I don't know. We're okay with Gabbert, Sanchez, Whedon, guys like that in the preseason going against the scrubs. Trubisky will play, although Fox isn't saying how much.
Well, yeah, and that's something that we always want to know from the head coach. Hey, when's the rookie going to get in? How much time do we have to bet against this guy in his NFL debut? And, of course, Chicago has a vested interest in making their rookie QB look good. That doesn't necessarily happen in week 1. And it's so funny you mentioned that. Yeah, Mark Sanchez bet on all the way in August, although I have seen him screw up preseason games. Sanchez is just one of those guys it's hard to have your money on in any ball game, but we like veteran backups. We like veteran third stringers in August. Mark Sanchez is certainly one of those type of guys, but with Fox playing mum about how much Trubisky is going to play, let's see if there's any more information comes out on this one over the course of the next 24 hours. I will say this, as you mentioned, the Bears last year, week 1 against the same Broncos team, they lost to Denver 22-0 as part of that 0-3 straight up and ATS start to the preseason. In Fox's first year in Chicago, the Bears scored 24 points after halftime with Jimmy Clausen in week 1 of the preseason for the win and cover against Miami.
Up next, the deep dive, part 1 with Clay Travis. Loves college football, knows what he's talking about, a little SEC as well. And then we'll get to the play of the day on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Welcome back to SportsBet. I'm here with Clay Travis from Fox Sports Radio. And Clay, I always enjoy getting a chance to talk with someone that has more than 25 times my Twitter following.
Well, probably 25 times the hate, maybe 100,000 times the hate too. That's par for the course, but I think that I have the best job in America. I mean that honestly. I'm not sure what somebody could offer me that I would turn over my job for. Now, there's people who make more money than I do, but in terms of getting out of bed and having the gig that I do, I just feel like I have to pinch myself every day. So if people say mean things to me online every now and then, that's par for the course.
How do you deal with the haters? Do you, I mean, because that's something that as a public figure you have to deal with probably on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's private hate, right? I've never had a negative word said to me face to face. So I think I've always kind of contemplated it as being the equivalent of WWE, right? People want to react largely and loudly and grab the mic, and Twitter is basically an open mic for everyone. And so there's a large degree of artificiality and show associated with it. But, you know, look, I have learned along the way that you can't have people really like you unless you also have people really hate you. And really what we're in the battle of today in media, I think, is not love versus hate, although those are important, but interest versus disinterest. And for whatever reason, I think I have a skill in being able to get people interested in what I say. And that's my job, right? To be as interesting as I possibly can on a day-to-day basis. Some people will love me. Some people will hate me. Hopefully, as many people as possible will pay attention.
That's the key.
Yeah,
you're allowed to have the haters as long as they watch and listen.
And
it's
they
the
do
same thing on
even,
SportsBet. Yeah.
Even more so. You know, I mean, initially when I first got on social media, that was what astounded me. I was like, this is amazing, right? That somebody's football team can just have won the biggest game of the year. And that fan is not choosing to drink another beer or try to persuade his wife or girlfriend to sleep with him in celebration or just run down the street and go call his buddies and text them. The number of people who immediately get on social media and are like, hey, fuck you, Clay Travis. How in the world did you get this game wrong? I mean, that's their first way that they want to celebrate. The Clemson hadn't won a national title since 1980. I expected Alabama to beat Clemson, right?
Me and you both, yeah.
Okay, so I lost a decent amount of money for me betting on that game. I felt pretty good at the half, by the way. I should have
felt pretty good going in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
How many double-digit leads did Alabama blow in the fourth quarter?
Not very many. I've been to a lot of those games. So I'm standing there on the sideline. My phone absolutely explodes. And the same thing had happened a couple of years ago when Ohio State beat Alabama in the title game. There was 25 million people. But those teams, especially Clemson, had not won a title in most of the people's lifetimes who were on social media. And it blew me away that the first way that they wanted to celebrate their title was not by saying, like, oh, my God, Clemson's back. This is amazing. This might be the only time in our life that Clemson ever wins a title. Who knows? It's hard to win a title. And instead, they wanted to go to me and say, like, hey, fuck you, Clay Travis. I told you that we were going to beat Alabama. And I'm like, initially, when I first started in social media, that blew me away. As I got more used to it, I recognized that it's you becoming a part of the story to them. Right? I'm not a player. I'm not an athlete on the field by any stretch of the imagination. But they are so wrapped up in the game that they want as many opinions about the game as possible. And they basically view me as a partisan of the game in some way.
Sure.
And it's great for what I do.
Well, I mean, part of the celebration is telling Clay Travis to fuck off because he got the wrong side.
But how funny is that the first title they've won in almost 40 years, and the way that you celebrate is by getting on the internet, going to find a stranger and telling him, fuck you, see, we beat Alabama. I just...
But the thing is, you're not a stranger.
Yeah, to them, that's right. I am a, the internet has this ability to make everyone seem accessible. And I think for the benefit of the internet, what it does is ultimately it's going to reveal who you are. And so what I try to do every day, ever since I started on the internet, certainly involving social media, I boiled it down to kind of an acronym, SOFA. I want to be smart, original, funny, and authentic. And if you can do all four of those things every day, then I think you win, and that develops more and more people who pay attention to what you do. And I think that works.
SOFA. I'm writing that down.
SOFA. Smart, original, funny, and authentic. Now, sometimes I fail, but if you can pull it off, on a day-to-day basis. If you can do that in, like I said, in every article or every day, if I sit down in front of the mic and talk on Fox Sports Radio as honestly as I possibly can, then it's a win.
Well, let's talk about the authenticity factor.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, that is the biggest key to developing a broad audience.
Yes.
Is that people have to think you're real and not full of shit, that you're not putting on a facade for them.
Yeah.
You seem to pull that off as well as anybody I've ever seen. How do you do it?
Because what I have said before, and I would probably hope that Zach, who works where we're hanging out right now, and anybody who's spending a little bit of time with me, I would want them to think Clay Travis sounds the exact same on television or radio or in his written columns as he does in person. So what I try to do is eliminate, there's never been anything that I've ever said or written that I wouldn't say or write hanging out with people at a bar, right? And so I want my conversation with my audience to be the exact same as it would be my conversation with my friends, as close as I can possibly get. And I think with Periscope and Facebook Live in particular, what they offer is that degree of authenticity. You know, a lot of guys who work in TV, they say, oh, when I watch your show, there's no bells and whistles. It's you sitting down with a billboard behind you in your house, right? Talking about anything. Like we just did a show today where I talked about Game of Thrones getting leaked, an episode from season 7. I talked about Colin Kaepernick. I talked about the crocodiles down in Costa Rica. And I talked about, all of those things kind of rolled in together. And that's the kind of authentic, right? And so what I try to do is talk about sports, but also talk about what everybody cares about, which can be other things in sports.
Clay Travis, right here on Sports. We'll have more with Clay coming up in part 2.
Good job by Clay Travis. Part 2 coming up tomorrow. Money time, play of the day. Betting number 967, 968. Tampa, Boston under 9 or 8.5, but there's plenty of 9s available. Bet online number was 8.5. Rays aren't hitting at all. Red Sox last 6 road games combined, 16 runs. They're hitting at Fenway, but not anywhere else. And we know, as we talked about, Tampa Bay not hitting at all. So let's go under in that one with the play of the day, 967, 968. Under. Back tomorrow, plenty of football, preseason football, and more with Clay Travis. There's a lot of games to recap and go over as well. 7 preseason games on Thursday. Coming up on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com. Thanks for watching.